What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. BlizzConline gave us a ton of new information about Overwatch 2, and while I've already made a couple videos talking about the dense amount of information we got in the actual Overwatch 2 BlizzCon panel, there were also a number of side interviews and articles which took place during the BlizzCon weekend that discussed certain things which weren't even talked about in the official panel. So in this video, I'm going to be focusing on all these additional little detail tidbits we learned about Overwatch 2, which included discussions of Overwatch 2's release date, a playable beta, the possibility of crossplay, and when we can expect to next hear more about this highly anticipated sequel. Before we jump on in though, I just want to remind you to subscribe, like the video, and hit that bell icon if you enjoy this video, as that really helps out my channel and makes sure you stay up to date on all future Overwatch news and content. But now, let's talk about even more exciting, juicy information about Overwatch 2. So first up, we have an IGN article featuring an interview with Overwatch game director Jeff Kaplan, and this is going to be where the bulk of the information I talk about in this video comes from. Now, this article is very long, so I'm not going to actually read through the entirety of it, but rather I'm just going to focus on specific important points that I think are worth paying attention to due to the information they include. So first up, Blizzard evidently has no planned release date for Overwatch 2 just yet, and their philosophy is that it's ready when it's ready. This is basically what we've already sort of assumed, given that they haven't made any big announcement about the release date, but it is nice to hear Jeff Kaplan saying in an interview like this that they're just focusing on making it good. I know it can be frustrating for a lot of players since we've, of course, been waiting for quite a while at this point already for the sequel to release, and even still it seems like we're going to have to wait quite a bit longer, but Blizzard is focusing on quality over quantity with Overwatch 2, and they want to take their time and not rush things, hence why they're not comfortable talking about an actual release date prior to them feeling comfortable with what they have to release. In a similar vein to this though, Jeff also talked about a closed beta being very likely for Overwatch 2, with an open beta for everyone to try out being likely as well, but not something that they're entirely committed to just yet. He also mentioned that internally they haven't even reached an internal alpha just yet, which honestly isn't great news with regards to when we can expect to see the open beta or even the closed beta. And so honestly I have to say, don't get your hopes up for it being anytime soon. Probably late 2021, if I had to hazard a guess now, would be the earliest we could end up seeing some sort of beta for us to actually try out the game for ourselves. But of course, that's just speculation at this point in time, and we don't really have any further details about when a beta is going to be or what exactly to expect from it. The next point Jeff brought up, which I found to be particularly interesting, was that he feels that Blizzard failed to adequately sell the idea of Overwatch 2 being a sequel back when it was first officially announced at BlizzCon 2019, and that they strive to do it better here at BlizzConline. Now, I actually have to 100% agree with Jeff on this stance. I think Blizzard did a pretty bad job of conveying what exactly Overwatch 2 was back in 2019, and I think it actually did quite a bit of damage to the game overall. People didn't really know what to think of it. They thought, oh, it's like a sequel, but it's the same game with just an expansion component. There was just a ton of confusion, and it wasn't great. But fortunately, this year at BlizzConline, you could tell that Blizzard put extra effort into emphasizing why exactly Overwatch 2 needed to be a sequel by showing us all the new PvP and PvE elements that are going to be in the game, and focused on these bigger components that couldn't just be added as an expansion to the existing Overwatch 1. So yeah, I think Blizzard did a much better job this year at talking about Overwatch 2 than what they did back in 2019, and I'm definitely excited to hear what else they have to say going forward. Next up was a comment regarding crossplay for Overwatch, where Jeff Kaplan stated that it's something that the Overwatch development team is a fan of, but they can't confirm it as being something in the works currently. Now, this sounds nicer than it actually is, because based on just these words, it sounds like, oh, Jeff wants there to be crossplay, that means we're probably going to see crossplay. However, Jeff has given this exact same answer to this exact same question for years now. And so far, we have yet to see any progress or development when it comes to crossplay for Overwatch. Maybe we could see it in Overwatch 2, but at the time being, it sounds like they have nothing to announce for it. Next up, Jeff had a few interesting things to note about the Overwatch 2 PvE. First up, saying that there will be more enemy units than just Null Sector and Talon, which so far are the only two factions we've actually seen shown off when it comes to Overwatch 2. The bulk of the enemies we've seen thus far have of course been Null Sector, with all the various different Omnic types they showed off at both BlizzConline and BlizzCon 2019, but we've also seen Talon units show up in what appear to be certain story missions, and beyond just these two factions, we don't know who else we're going to end up facing off against. Maybe we'll get someone like the Hashimoto clan from the recent Kanazaka map, or maybe someone like the Junkers or some other sort of notorious criminal group like Los Muertos. Any and all of them could potentially be PvE enemy factions, but at the time being, it sounds like Blizzard isn't ready to discuss or clarify any of these other groups. Additionally, Jeff Kaplan mentioned that there will be much more to the hero progression system than what they've already announced and shown via the hero talent trees. Now again, it's anyone's guess as for what exactly else there's going to be. The talent trees, as we saw at BlizzConline, seem like pretty in-depth and detailed ways of leveling up a character, so it is interesting to consider what other forms of progression they could end up putting in. Another thing he mentioned, though, is that hero talents could potentially be making an appearance in certain PvP arcade or custom game modes, but he very clearly specified that they will for sure not be in competitive or any game modes that are even remotely competitive when it comes to PvP. The whole purpose behind the PvE talents and different abilities those allow you to use is that they can basically go crazy with all the different abilities and mechanics they can introduce. All they have to worry about is making it fun for the player, as opposed to it being also fun for the enemies you're killing with your cool abilities. So yeah, it makes sense that the talents don't work in terms of a PvP game, but he did acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, there'll be special arcade modes where you can just play the quick play PvP-esque mode, but with talents, and that could be a very interesting thing to end up seeing. Another interesting thing he had to say was regarding story missions, and that Blizzard is currently trying to make as many heroes as possible playable in the story missions, with even the villainous Talon characters potentially even getting their own playable story arcs. Now, Jeff did emphasize that he doesn't expect every single hero to actually make an appearance as a playable hero in the story missions. The examples he gave actually were Wrecking Ball and Hanzo as being these sort of edge case characters who might not be able to fit into the main plotline. So yeah, it seems like he basically wanted to manage people's expectations and not set the idea that, oh, every single hero is going to have some sort of significant story arc where you can play as them doing whatever, and mainly just emphasize that when it comes to the story missions, they're mainly going to be focusing on Overwatch and Talon, it sounds like, as well. So sadly, as a Wrecking Ball player, I don't think my favorite hero is going to be making it into very much of the story part of this game. But hey, that's what the hero missions are for, as you can play any hero you want in the hero missions, and it seems like those are the bigger chunk of the PvE anyways, so I'm not really too worried about that. Another thing Jeff mentioned is that they're currently trying to work on developing a good enough AI to allow people to play the story missions by themselves and just have AI counterparts to fill in the other three hero roles. So far, it looks like most, if not all, PvE missions, both story and the hero mission ones, are going to have 4 human players playing against a bunch of enemy Omnics or Talon units, but Blizzard is interested in making it possible for smaller groups, like maybe just a single person or 2 people, to be able to play these same missions, and then have an AI fill in for the other non-human players. It sounds like this AI is still really a work in progress, though, when it comes to Overwatch 2, and Jeff wasn't willing to promise or commit to there being an actual AI that fills in for otherwise human players in the PvE campaigns. So hopefully they add that in, because that'd be a nice feature for people who maybe don't have a whole ton of friends, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it ends up playing out. And the last major thing talked about in the specific IGN article is that over the course of 2021 and going forward to Overwatch 2, there are going to be more frequent Overwatch 2 updates. This is very good news, because over the past year since BlizzCon 2019, we got absolutely nothing, and to be fair, Jeff Kaplan did say back in 2019 that they would be dark over the course of 2020, so it's a huge relief to hear Jeff say now that over the course of 2021, 2021, they want to start bringing us more regular updates and progress reports to get people interested in Overwatch 2 and just let us know how things are going. Specifically, he mentioned the next major progress report possibly being as soon as March or April, which is only a month or two away, which is a really exciting thing to hear because the idea of even getting just a small bi-monthly update saying, oh hey, this is some cool thing we're working on, here's some more concept artwork, or here's another clip of some game mode we're trying out, anything even small like that I think would be fantastic to have shown off. So while he didn't make any promises that we're going to see something in March or April, he did indicate that they're hoping to have something new to show off by then. So don't necessarily get your hopes up, but maybe just keep your fingers crossed that that ends up happening. And moving on from the IGN article, there were just a few other little tidbits I wanted to bring up, which were mentioned in other smaller interviews or on the Overwatch content creator Discord server, so I'll just cover those real quickly here at the end. First is that 2CP, or Assault, which is the official name for the game mode, will not be in competitive or probably even quick play when it comes to Overwatch 2. Jeff Kaplan specified that Overwatch 2 will have a whole new roster of PvP maps and that none of them will be 2CP. Jeff did mention though that 2CP will still exist in some form, most likely in the arcade, possibly as some sort of like retro mode for playing older Overwatch 1 game modes. He wasn't super clear on how exactly that ended up working, and also the fact that he mentions Overwatch 2 having a completely new roster of PvP maps makes me wonder if other non-2CP maps from Overwatch 1 are going to end up being in that Overwatch 2 roster. Most people seem to actually like the control point and escort maps we have currently, so I kind of hope Blizzard doesn't just dump all those and just add in completely new ones because, you know, King's Row, it's a popular map. People like it. I think people would be pretty disappointed if they just dumped King's Row entirely from the PvP roster, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Personally, I don't expect them to just dump all the old maps. I assume they're going to be keeping most of them and probably just focus on cutting out the less popular maps, which are of course 2CP for the most part. Another thing mentioned is that the PvE hero missions are likely to function on a daily rotation type system, where every day there's going to be a finite number of missions you can choose to play. So for example, they might just have a list of like maybe 8 possible missions, each with a different map and objective type for that specific day. And then the next day will be another set of maps with different objectives, with the goal seemingly be to have this sort of constant refreshing of the type of missions you can go on. I know this is something that other games have done before when it comes to the online PvE experience. Honestly, considering just how many different missions Blizzard is planning to add to Overwatch 2, which in their own words are going to be hundreds of different types of missions, it makes sense that they would handle it in this way, as you can't just really have hundreds of missions available at any given time. It'd be impossible to find other people to play with online if that was the case, so it makes sense for them to restrict the number of missions available at any given time, much like what they already do currently with the arcade. And the last big thing I wanted to mention in this video is that all major new content going forward will be held off until Overwatch 2. That means no more new maps, no more new heroes, pretty much nothing except for minor sort of balance patches and little like fixes and things like that, in addition to events and hero challenges for Overwatch 1. Honestly, I understand why they're doing it this way. It allows them to just focus all their efforts on finishing Overwatch 2, which of course is the most important thing for them to do right now, but it will be sort of disappointing just continuing to have nothing for Overwatch 1 in the meantime, since we already know it's going to be probably at least another year from now, at the very least, before we end up seeing Overwatch 2 release. So yeah, it's going to be rough, but at the very least, we know we have an awesome looking sequel coming in the slightly distant future, and based on everything they showed off about the game at BlizzConline, I have to admit, I am currently more hyped than ever for Overwatch 2. So I am super excited to learn more about it as 2021 continues, and of course, I'll be keeping you all up to date with any new information we end up learning, so be sure to stay tuned to my channel. And with that, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server if you want to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch content. And special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. And if you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, like getting your name at the end of my videos, then just hit that join button down below. Otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.